العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Good afternoon. Thank you all for finding the time and visiting today's webinar organized by the Humanizing Digital Education Flagship. To gain barakah, let's start our session today with the recitation of Quran Al-Fatiha. Amin. Amin, amin, amin. Okay, my name is Dr. Nur Saadah Maknoor, and I am an assistant professor at the Kuliah of ICT. So I'll be your moderator throughout the webinar session for today. Now, I will ask you one question to check if you can see and hear as well. So do you hear me well, everyone?
Yes.
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 Alhamdulillah, great. So just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. So please find the attendance link at the chat box. Okay, and then please mute your microphone during the sharing session. And we will make around 45 minutes presentation from the speakers. 15 minutes will be allocated to each speaker, followed by a question and answer session at the end of the event. So if you have any questions during the presentation, just write them to the chat box available at your upper right hand side on both platforms, Zoom and YouTube. Now, let us begin. As a responsible institution on higher learning of international research, the IIUM actively supports the event to position education and reaffirms the role of education as a fundamental right and public good. In so doing, IIUM has called for setting up the flagship project to promote the Sustainable Development Goal SDGs in decisive ways that can empower people to preserve the planet, build shared prosperity, foster peace, and contribute to the well-being of the society. These flagship projects are fairly distributed throughout the university, involving all sectors, academics, administrations, and students, including the local and indigenous communities around the university, aligned with IIUM vision and mission. Humanizing digital education is one of the flagship project 2.0 from KICT. So this flagship synergy is refreshing for co-learning and co-creating to inculcate sharing among the communities that share common values and concepts, especially in translation project. So for today's webinar series, it will be a sharing session on upskilling community through Malay-Arabic translation by the team members of HDE Flagship. We have here the leader of the HDE Flagship, Dr. Sharifah Nur Amirah Abdullah, and advisor of HDE Flagship, Professor Dr. Abdul Wahab Abdul Rahman, and member of HDE Flagship, Dr. Muhamad Sadry Seman. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Sharifah Nur Amirah to explain what HDE Flagship is and the direction of this project. Please welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Saadah, our moderator for today's webinar. Thank you for IIUM community, for all IIUM community for your presence today. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So let me share my screen. Okay, so before I start, I noticed that here we are not only having our KICT members as our audience today, but also we have the non-KICT members also. We have Dr. Rosnani Kasim, the director of CELPAD. Thank you, Dr. Noraini, for coming in. And also we have the doctors and also sisters, brothers and sisters from the CELPAD and also the KLM. Okay, our collaborators for our flagships today. Okay, thank you for joining us today. Okay, so let's start. Okay, So for today's seminar series, we will having a topic on upskilling community through Malay-Arabic translation. So basically, previously I received many inquiries and also I received many questions from the colleagues, okay, and also from KICT members ask me what actually this flagship is all about. So I think that I didn't manage to find the suitable time. So I think that this is the best time to explain to the HDE members that is joining us, okay, what is actually our HDE flagship is all about. Before I begin or before I start, so let's us move into some of the video snippet on to give you an idea. So what actually this flagship is all about. Okay, please take take some time to watch this video. Okay, so basically this video just to give a brief idea on what actually is our flagship is, and this video is also available at our Takrim booth. Okay, it was created for our Takrim booth to give an idea or an insight to the audience actually. Okay, so okay, let me stop. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so give me times to explain to you what the overview of this flagship actually. So the purpose we to establish this flagship is basically the first is a part to advocate knowledge transfer through the delivery of intelligent language translation framework ILTF to be more accurate and widespread. Why we choose this translation and why the translation is deemed necessary in our flagship, because we know that the language is the most powerful tool for communication, okay, and language enables interacting, exchanging and delivering the message. And some of the languages are expanding and evolving, we know that, and as their vocabulary increases, okay, and some are facing extinction and not spoken widely because most of the languages are not inherited from the generation to the another generation. Okay, one of the key issues of that, because it can create the misunderstanding, okay, for the communication and can create the confusion for the message being delivered. And it is prevalent for message delivery in the same language and more obvious when the process of translation from one language to another. Okay, and why intelligent language translation is important, because right now we see that the delivery of message is involved in accuracy and can create confusion. Okay, so therefore this flagship dives deeper into developing the foundation for an intelligent language translation framework that may be used for multiple languages. So right now our flagship just to take into an initial step to develop our intelligent language translation framework for Malay to Arabic and Arabic to Malay. Just a foundation or a baseline that we can say. Okay, so right now we have the translation process must be grounded in the ethics and accuracy. This is our aim and concern, meaning that when we want to develop this framework and also to develop this translation engine, we want to make sure that our translation engine must be grounded in the ethics and accurate representation. So this is applied for both text and speech translation. And the ethics and accuracy of translation could be achieved by incorporating intelligence in the process and tools. Okay, so this is the first of our aims. Second aim is that to lead the way in developing engine for accurate and ethical representation of the language, Malay-Arabic. Okay, you might ask why we choose Malay-Arabic. Okay, so basically we know that the representation, okay, of the Arabic and Malay language, it involves the, if we can use the translation from the website, for example, the Google Translate, we can see that there are many grammatical errors, okay, even wording, style, okay, and usage for both languages, okay. And translation engine, like for example, that we are using, for example, the Google Translate, this is the popular one. When we want to translate from one word to another, it usually gives us the inaccurate representation. For example, I like to use this example from Dr. Sadry. Okay, when someone, okay, I mean the international, okay, not Malay people or not a Malay person ask you, okay, actually they want to translate into Malay. You ask them, where do you live? Okay, for example, a sentence, where do you live? So meaning that in Malay, it should be, di mana kamu tinggal. But when you use this inaccurate representation, it will turn to, kamu hidup di mana? So you see that kind of different meaning that can be, that we can get from the Google Translate or other translation engine that is not have this kind of accuracy and also ethics in representation. Okay, this is one of the example. And we can see that even though we have a very we have a plenty of the translation tools in the website that we have right now, even the most accurate, they claim this is the most accurate translation tools, for example, DeepL, and also we have the Reverso, but somehow a few translation engine, they just do not devoted solely to the translation for the Malay-Arabic and Arabic-Malay. We can find most of the accurate representation, they just focus on English to Arabic or English to other languages other than Arabic, Malay, Malay-Arabic. Okay, this is what we are concerned about. And why we choose this Malay-Arabic also, because we want to fulfill the blooming needs of education and tourism industry, because we know that the Arab people loves to travel, right? And also in Malaysia also, we have many tourists from the Arab countries. So that's how when we want to make our economy stronger, okay, when we want to make sure that our tourism industry in the good hands. So these things, this translation process should be in a right path, okay. And the last one, okay, our concern is to integrate the conventional translation engine, okay, into understanding the language context using artificial intelligence AI technology. Because when we are talking about the digital humanities or humanizing digital education, we want to use the approach of the humanistic computing approach on our translation engine framework. Okay. So, and I proceed, this is among our team members. Okay. So basically, these team members is actually, with me since we want to submit the proposal. And thank you for Prof Wahab, okay, for making a way for us and give us the opportunities, okay, to expand our knowledge in this kind of knowledge. Okay. So basically, our flagship not only have in our KICT team, we also have from other kuliah, because we are not only focusing on the technical parts, but we also need somebody from the taxonomical part and also the language part. Okay, and we have the advisor from KICT team, we have Prof Wahab, we have the advisor from Kuliah Language and Management team, Dr. Azrul, the Dean of KLM. We have from SIPAC team, Dr. Rosnaini, the director of SIPAC team, and also we have from the IUM Academy and Graduate School, which is the dean of this IUM Academy, Associate Prof. Dr. Badri Najib. Okay, and also we have the doctor also, academic also from the IRKHS and also from the SciPad, KLM and also KICT. Okay. And for these internal stakeholders also, we are not only having the collaboration with the academic, but also we have the collaboration with the industry, which is the IIUM Press. Okay. And these are among the members that just joining us after our flagship has been endorsed by the UMC, okay, from the KICT members. So this is a briefing just for them to know more on what actually our flagship is. Okay. So the objective of our flagship is that the first one is to develop the Intelligent Language Taxonomical Framework, ILTF, for Malay and Arabic language. Okay, as I said earlier in our overview. Okay, and then we want to achieve the objective number 2 to establish accurate complex connectivity between the taxonomical table of this framework. Okay, because why this is important, objective number 2, because you know that both languages, both of the linguistic corpus have its own the semantic problems, syntactic problems, okay, phonetic problems and so forth. So this is where we want to make sure that each of the language representation is accurate. Okay. Objective number 3, to develop the accurate translation engine based on artificial intelligence technology, where this is we want to adopt or we want to park our translation tools under AI hat. Okay. And the objective number 4 is to generalize the hierarchical taxonomical framework to the humanizing digital education. When we have our foundation, when we have this strong foundation, then after that we can generalize not only for Arabic and Malay languages, and also we can apply this framework in intelligence translation engine into the Jawi script and also the manuscript that we have in Malaysia. Okay, and also the other part of the world. Okay, so these are among the beneficiaries, okay, or the stakeholders that we deem importance that we want to market our ILTF and also to promote our intelligent translation engine, which is to the students of arts, languages and social science studies, okay, tourism industry, translators, okay, and not forgetting our community-based libraries, especially for the most libraries. Okay, so some of you might ask me, what actually we want to translate, or we want to, the things that we want to be included in our project. So basically, when we discuss with all the team members, okay, we are deciding on using the basic daily conversation from Arabic, Malay, Arabic, okay. So this one has been given by the KLM module. Okay, so this one we start to be our baseline lah, to use it and to start with as a pilot. Okay. And this one is a project action item. So I believe this one Dr. Sadry will explain further on the technical parts what we have. Okay, on the database development, on the training and reasoning of our framework. And after that, after we finish on that, we will do the validation. Okay. And so that in conclusion, I can say that translation should be seen as an important component in the development process of a nation. Okay. And to make these things happen, we should have all the linguists, information specialists and IT experts to work together for a better intelligent translation engine, meaning that we are not only working as isolate team, okay, like for KICT, just KICT, like for example, when we have KLM, just language, let them do something. No, we will do and work together and also to gain experts and industry opinion and also their validation to make sure that our intelligent translation engine and framework is successful. Okay, so I think that's all from me. If you have any question or inquiry to ask pertaining to this flagship, you just post your questions to or email us at hdeflagship.ium@gmail.com. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharifah Nur Amirah, for the exciting and fruitful information, I hope. Okay. Now, I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Abdul Wahab Abdul Rahman, an advisor of this HDE flagship, to share the needs and the importance of intelligent Malay-Arabic translation to the community. Please welcome, Prof.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What I would like to do actually is to ask Dr. Sadry to present first, because I'm only the advisor. So, but okay, what I want to do is that just to re-emphasize a few things. First of all, I'm not sure whether I should really share what I have here, but let me just share because I already prepared something there. Okay, the title here I put is Error in Translation. Okay. Meaning, perception, and intuition, and that becomes important and critical. You know? First of all, if you see that any lack of congruence between the source text and the target text, it is always a challenge. And this includes whether you're talking about the meaning, the failures in use of the target, language according to standard norms. For example, when we want to translate between Malay to Arabic, what is the norm in Arabic may not be the same norm in English. Okay, I just go through very quickly. I know that I only have 5 minutes to present to you, so that's what I'm going to do. And translation error is a grammatical or spelling mistakes or incorrect words. But most important is that the meaning or the document target audience may have different reflection, different perception. And perception here is the one that is the most difficult for us to really make an accurate translation process. I give you an example, like, you can say, please write your name down. And the meaning when you say, please write your name down, is the same thing, right? Or just, please write your name down. These are the different intonations that will give you different meaning, okay, when you do the translation process. For example, when you say that in Malay, it will be very different, see, because you want to add that emotion into it. But how can you add emotion in a phrase, or let's say in a sentence? You cannot, because if it is just a sentence, it may not be able to reflect the meanings. So therefore, all this has to come into phrase. We have to take care of the whole entire phrase, and not paragraph, and not just the sentence by itself. So if you only consider sentence, in the end, your translation process can be meaningless. And it may deviate from the original meaning of what you really want to do. This is why in the original idea, when we were talking about AI to incorporate, is that we know that we cannot translate, of course, not based on word. Word translation is meaningless, okay? And sometimes when you do Google translation, they do word translation for you. And some of the other translation, they do what we call the sentence translation. But again, translation sentence by sentence may not reflect the perception, may not reflect the emotion which is hidden behind. Okay, like what Amirah was saying just now is that we may even want to do speech. If you do speech translation, it's even worse. You need to add that emotion bit, because the intonation is going to be very, very different in this particular case. And it gives you a different dimension when you talk about emotion or perception in this particular case. So I just want to re-emphasize that, translation by itself without intelligence, without the human part, that is why humanizing translation is very different than just translation itself. Google Translate can do your translation, no problem, word by word, sentence by sentence. But when it comes to humanizing translation, this is where our challenge is going to be. Okay, so therefore, a faithful representation with the source text, documents with awkward and or poorly written language may result in translation that sounds also very awkward. So therefore, in this particular case, sometimes very simple text, very simple, okay? When you want to represent it in another language, you have to really understand the meaning or what the perception of that particular sentence so that you can reflect actually what the speaker is trying to say, or in this case here, the author is trying to reflect. So therefore, in this case here, it is very important that in our translation process, we have to have that intelligence, which includes not just sentence translation, of course, not word translation, but also paragraph translation, which gives you a different dimension of challenges at all, okay? So I did mention about intonation, emotion, perception, which is not included yet, but in the long run, we would like to have that included in this particular case. So therefore, that gives a different kind of meaning or dimension, okay, to the kind of translation that we talk about. This is my original idea as far as what is digital humanities and education, okay? And of course, it is break into three. You want to know what is education. We are talking about humanizing education. The rectors has been talking about humanizing education. Okay, and we put it into the digital form. This is where our strength. And the rest of the group, which we formed from the Pago, from CELPAD and so forth, is how to make it humanities. I think that is the one that becomes very important and critical in this particular case. Okay, I'm not going to go into this one here. This is but in the end, just to make sure that we actually capture all those things and they are fully secure, we would like to make sure we introduce what we call the blockchain digital locker system on our cloud. So therefore, in this case here, it's going to help us a lot more, okay, in making sure that it is secure so that nobody can curi our database and so forth. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have. So yeah, these are the world without engineers. Anybody who has used what do you call that, slide rule before? These are the old technology, So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, so we're missing Dr. Saadah.
So thank you, Prof. Wahab, for your very interesting explanation on the digital humanities and education. So maybe Dr. Saadah is lost connection right now or having a network problem. So I think right now we can proceed with Dr. Sadry to brief us on the technical parts and also to give some information pertaining to the humanistic computing on this flagship.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Amirah, and thank you, Prof, and also thank you, Moderator, Dr. Saadah, and welcome everyone. All right. So my task here is as a technical advisor. So I do have some expert who work on the part of the proposed engine and so on and so forth. So I will try to explain a little as possible what we have now, what we have achieved in stage one, phase one actually. So let me share my screen on the proposed okay, so everyone can see, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So this is actually we refined a bit from the earlier proposed architecture. So this is the refined one based on the one that we developed for phase one. So in the architecture itself, for the ERF and also contributed the Digital Humanity project, we have this actually. So we try to cover actually what being proposed by Prof Wahab is to have 3 taxonomy English, but we find it more easier to focus between the 2 first, and then we add the English later on. So in this case, we have these 2, Malay and Arabic taxonomy, which is being collected and developed by Dr. Sharifah, Amirah, Dr. Saadah, and Dr. Lenny, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then based on the collections of those taxonomy, then we try to include in our reasoning engine and machine learning. This will be the hardest part lah, in the technical part for our part. So in this case, Dr. Amir will work on which is one of our members, which is AI expert. Okay, we'll work on a machine learning expert, which working on the machine learning as well, and also for the reasoning engine, Dr. Azmi, Khairul Azmi will include in that. We include in this part. Okay, in fact, Dr. Azmi come out with a proof of concept, earlier stage for phase 1, which I will show in the video later on, 4 minutes video, which prepared by Dr. Azmi and also Dr. Sharifah Amirah. All right, so this is the hardest part lah, that we have to work on, especially like Prof. Wahab mentioned just now, the context that we want to make sure the translation as natural as a normal human being natural language. Okay, so like where do you live is not di mana kamu hidup. So where, you know, something like that. So this is the engine that we are trying to working on lah. So in order to work on this, we need to train certain sentences, so that the machine will be able to get the right words whenever user asks the same sentences or the same question. Okay, so in the meantime, we work on it, these two first. And this is really the hard part lah. So when we manage to get this, the machines are intelligent enough and it will produce a natural language and natural sentences, human-like natural sentences, and then we can do the validation here lah. Okay, whether it's accurate or whether it sound like a human, like you're asking a chatbot, something like that. Okay, so we want this will be the validation lah. Okay, so when the sentences are validated and they are accurate and so on and so forth, our plan for the end product will be in a form of apps. So we can convert into mobile apps and we can convert to the web apps. I remember Dr. Azro from KLM last time, he wants something like a reversal. So once this part is complete, then we can form into reversal like lah. And also there's a lots of possibility when we transform all this into mobile apps. It can be a teaching tools for teaching Arabic and so on and so forth. Okay, so our part, like Prof. Wahab mentioned just now, we are cover on the digital part, this one. Okay, so so when this done, okay, so we are still at this stage actually. So and some on this. So to see the initial part that we managed to do it, which is thanks to Dr. Khairul Azmi, okay, and also Dr. Amirah for doing the video. Okay, so let me show the video. This is 4-minute video, so please bear with me. Okay, so I received a comment that you cannot hear the sound. Okay, never mind. Let we finish with the video, then I'll give you the URL of the YouTube so that you can watch it on your own lah, in the chat bar. So all right, so that's the part that we managed to do that. Of course, it's in a rough product, and we need more time to refine lah. As of now, we can only translate from Malay to Arabic, and we cannot do the Arabic to Malay yet. Okay, so that's all apart from the technical side. Okay, I'll pass over to Dr. Saadah. Is Dr. Saadah around or not? Or else to Dr. Sharifah Amirah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sadry, for the detailed explanation on the technical concept for this intelligent Malay-Arabic translation. So basically, we still not, have using Dr. Saadah because of the.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay.
Okay, Alhamdulillah, you're back.
Thank you, Dr. Amirah and Dr. Sadry. Thank you, Dr. Sadry, for the explanation. Even though the sound is missing, we cannot hear the sound.
I'm so sorry. I'm not get used to the to the Zoom quite well lah, because I use a lot of Team and also with Google Meet.
It's okay.
My bad on that.
It's okay. So now it's time for the question and answer session. Okay. If you have any questions to ask, you may switch on your microphone and ask directly to the speaker.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Just a very simple question. First thing, I noticed that one of the Arabic translation, the third one was, not very well translation. So the other three are okay, but one of them, the number 3, one of the 4, need to be improved a little bit, the language. So I want to ask about the accuracy of the system. So did you evaluate the accuracy, how accurate the system? This is first a question. Another question about publication. Did you manage to publish any work from this project? And I noticed also some projects try to link the translation with Google Translation. Did you try to do so? That means the query send it to Google, Google Translate and send back to you. Did you try to do any of these, this system with Google? Thank you.
So I guess Dr. Sadry would like to.
Right. So, okay, in the demo just now, we have a very limited collection of Arabic and Malay. So that's why Dr. Azami tried to key in those equivalent words between the two as much as he can lah. Because like I said, it's just a proof of concept. Just our first phase is not really first phase, like 0.5 phase. And then okay, so we deviate away from the Google Translator because of that. The reason why our Wahab idea is to come up with our own, which is much more refined than Google Translate. In Google Translate, it just translate literally. There's no like I said just now lah. Kalau if you, for example, let's say where do you live? Okay, and if you have a Google Translate, it will try to translate to di mana awak hidup di mana, something like that, based on whatever the words that they can match. So yes, our original, that's the idea when we formed this. When Prof Wahab gathered all of us to come up with this, we also question Prof Wahab, why do we need to do this if we already have a Google Translator? And then Prof Wahab explained further, and now we understand lah. So we want to deviate away from the Google Translator API engine lah. Okay, I hope that will answer your question, Dr. Akram.
And Dr. Akram, to answer your question on the publication, okay, right now in March we already published an article under Seminar Penterjemahan Kebangsaan under IUM Press, okay, and also we are working more on the publication on this translation. And right now, Alhamdulillah, we have Dr. Saadah, who right now doing a postdoctoral on this intelligent translation engine in KLM. So I hope that after this we can produce more publication and also to get more outputs based on this project, inshallah. Is it answer your question, Dr. Akram?
Yes, thank you. What about the accuracy?
Okay, so the accuracy, if you look at the proposed phase just now, it will be in the phase 3. So when we count, that's why we do the validation, whether the translated or whether translated sentences are accurate or not. So that will be the stage 4 before we convert into an app format lah, in a mobile and also in the web apps. I hope that will answer your question, Dr. Akram.
It is, we will do after we done with all the reasoning and train the engine. So we will have the validation with the experts. So meaning that we will gather all the experts from the industry, that experts in language, and also we will gather the linguists also to make sure that our translation engine is accurate.
Yeah, I think the one we have right now are very scanty. There is no AI that we have actually included, you know. It is only a database to database, and that's what we are doing. I think hopefully when the database have developed to a certain level, you know, that we are able to include the AI portion. And this is where the challenge will be on our side, you know, on how to actually let the system train. And training in this case here will take a different kind of dimension. I think this is where we need you, Prof. Akram, to help us also, you know, in telling us whether we are in the right track or not, as far as doing the translation. And in fact, from KLM, we have the language experts, you know, and also from CELPAD, you know, they are also helping us in giving us a better understanding of whether the translation that we do is accurate or not. I think be with us, give us another 6 months. Sadry. First, we need to have the database.
Inshallah.
We need to have the database. So once we have the database, and then we will strengthen. So actually, the researchers from KLM and also from CELPAD is also helping us to develop the database. And with our lady Saadah in KLM, she can also push and help those people to develop the database at the same time. I think that's what we need. And if you have any hands or extra hands that you want to come forward, we are more than willing to actually have you help us. You can spend some times in KLM in Pago, and then we can work together, as a team, down in Pago. Not only your hands, but also your brain. You can leave the rest back here in Gombak, but we need your hands and your brain.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for the clarification. All right, so we received one more question from Dr. Adamu. Okay, follow up question to Dr. Akram's question just now. Who are the target end user for this project?
Okay, I might answer this question. So like I've said in my presentation, so our targeted end user, or what we can say is the beneficiaries or the stakeholders that we aim for, is the students of arts, languages and social science studies. Okay, and also for the industry, we will focusing for the tourism industry and also the translators, because when we have this one, so it can make our translator easier to use the end product when they are dealing with the tourists. And also this translation, intelligent translation also can be used by the community-based libraries, especially for the mosque libraries. Okay, so is it answer your question, Dr. Adamu?
I think of course in the end we are hoping that the United Nations can use it, so that when they were doing their their meetings or whatever it is, then the text can go through our translator, which we can provide a more accurate translation of whatever the translation is going to be. I think that's what we're trying to achieve. In the end, I think the world will recognize that these translators are far better than whatever that they have right now. Okay. I think that's what we want to do.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And Dr. Amirah. So any more questions from the audience?
Doctor, another simple question. Until now, I noticed that all sentences are short. So in which phase you are going to include full text with long sentences? Thank you.
Okay, so the video that Dr. Sadry played is that this is just a demo actually to show to the audience how we gonna train how our database will be look like to develop this translation engine. So basically, like I've said earlier, we will use a module from the KLM, okay, and Alhamdulillah Dr. Saadah already got the module. It is quite thick module, so we will go through on that, and then they have some subsection. Not only for the daily basic with the kaifa haluka, like that, just like that, and also they have some sort of what we can say difficult sentence or a very high-end sentence that we can use later on. But right now we are focusing on the very daily basic conversation first, to make sure that our translation engine be able to capture the accurate representation first before we move forward into the very difficult sentences.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Dr. Matina.
So the input will be in terms of text, right? Written Arabic text.
Yes, again,
The input is only written, or it's like Arabic text, right? The input?
Yes, the input in
Yes.
Arabic text.
Yeah, but it's not like verbal or sound, not yet.
Like Prof Wahab said, in a long run, then after that we will embed it like the sound, some sort of the tone of how the speech,
Yes.
And right now we are working on the text first.
Yes, only. Okay.
Yes.
Or is a type text or written text? Both can be.
Yes, we have a module from the KLM.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Sharul from KLM.
Yes.
I'm from the English team actually.
Yes.
And yes, you mentioned that perhaps now we are focusing on Malay and Arabic.
Yes.
But our role maybe will come later. But to prepare ourselves with that, can I know, can you share the module that you mentioned about, you know, the database? Because I do not have access to that. I just want to see how it looks, you know, the kind of data that you produce to feed the machine.
Okay, so basically, the module that we have, I mean, the things that, for example, this is not, we do not call it as a database yet. Okay, this is a module like like it's just a white paper, or we can see that it is like a textbook. Okay, that we want to transform into the database. Okay, so right now we are with a technical team are working to find what are the best way to put in the database programming. Okay, so because right now we don't have any solid or any finite I mean so-called database for our language first. Okay, because we are still find the, because you know, when to develop or to train the engine and also to develop this thing, we have to try and error of all these things first. So
you
when
mean
we
this is
manage to do it, then we will share with you.
okay, thank you. So this is a published book, you mean? It's not like a
Yes, Dr.
compilation
Saadah,
of
maybe you
taxonomy from
can,
scratch.
you have, because this is with Dr. Saadah right now.
Okay, because I thought they came up with like a compilation of taxonomy from scratch. So I just,
Okay.
you know, I'm just curious how, you know, how they chose, how they categorize. So the process there, because we were, when we first started with this, I remember we were given that task to develop the taxonomy, but we were still and are still, I think.
Yes, I know.
How to
Yes,
go
I
about
noticed
doing it.
that. But when we have several meetings with Dr. Azrul and also Dr. Rosnani, I think we come to the mutual agreement that we want to use the module first. Is it, if I'm wrong, maybe Dr. Rosnani can correct me. But right now the module is with Dr. Saadah.
Okay.
We have that module.
Can share, yes, just
Yes,
know
maybe
how it looks like.
Yeah, maybe Dr. Saadah can share.
Okay, and another question, when you decide on the translation, because when you set the module will fit the words, right?
Yes.
But how do you decide the translation? How do you decide? I mean the methods.
The methods in terms of when we are to translate, because in the module itself, they are already the translation in there.
Okay, so
this
this module
book, I mean, from
is already a translation from from Arabic.
So yeah, when we just want to transform, okay, and then make a taxonomical table, and after that we transform into the database, and after that we will I mean somehow to validate whether it is accurate or not.
Okay, so it's transferring.
Yes, transferring
into this machine.
Yes.
Translation.
Yes.
Okay.
Meaning that we are not start from the scratch. We are based from this module.
Okay, clear. Because I was wondering whether you use any. There's a few frameworks, right? When we translate, like a few procedures. So I'm wondering how you choose the procedures.
Inshallah, we will have a very detailed, I mean, somehow description and also on demo on this with our team members. Okay. All the Pago and Sepet.
Okay, thank you.
I think, Shahrul, what we are doing right now is that just taking from the module, you know, that's what we agreed upon. And then the module already have a set of translation. So, and then we see what will be the best thing that we can do as far as the system to see whether this can be done. Just the simple translation first. And kalau it can be done, then we know at least that, okay, we know that these are the taxonomical database or the table that we are going to use in our entire process. Because once kita dah fix, then we cannot change already. You know, then we have to go forward with that that idea or that concept as far as the type of taxonomical table that you want to incorporate. Because in the end, the taxonomical table relationship or correlation between the Malay, the English, and so forth need to go through this AI system. Okay, and the AI system in the end will determine how the most accurate translation is going to be. Example macam itulah, from Malay to Arabic, for example, are you going to use what do you call that, Prof Akram? By verb, or is it by noun? So therefore, those are the kind of things that reflect the accuracy of the translation in this case here. But it has to go through the training and the learning process.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to see the sample of the output.
Understand. I think maybe our problem is that because we show something that is very, very early stage, so I think people may misinterpret, the understanding.
Yeah, actually, I think we should show out the demo itself to our member first, then we conduct this meeting. But then let our members.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we can see where it's coming from.
Yeah. Give us time.
Yeah,
and we'll get back to you, and then you can help us develop the database.
Because we're too excited.
And ambitious too. Inshallah. All right. By the way, Dr. Shahrul, with me, 2 modules received from the Dean of KLM. But the module is actually focusing on 2 languages. First, this is the first phase, Arabic and Malay. So what we have in this module, I have 2 modules over here, if you can see. All right, maybe you can see. Okay, so this module actually will involve the daily conversation in Arabic and translated into Malay. So this is the module that being used by the Arabic students at KLM. Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Shahrul. Right, let's proceed with the questions. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Murni. Okay, so we have question from Dr. Ikhwan. How do the AI or other related system instill adab and respects different cultures as mentioned in Dr. Sadry's presentation?
All right, so I might take that questions. All right, so we to adapt to the different culture might be a difficult one, but I think it's a good question that we can put into our consideration. And okay, most important part lah. So I think to make sure that they adapt to the different culture might be very difficult. But we can do is we can create a blacklist or whitelist of the words, certain words that we refuse to translate. We can do that, but try to adapt to different culture might be difficult lah. So the best we can do is just to put in the blacklist or whitelist that these are the words that we don't want to translate or will not give you any input lah, or we just flag the words. I hope that will help. Will help to answer your question, Dr. Muhammad Kwan.
Just like bila you watch TV, so you blank that part,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sadry, for the answer. All right. Okay, so over here, Dr. Akram share papers, related papers, okay, for publication for this particular project. Okay, thank you, Dr. Akram. Right.
Thank you, Dr. Akram. Maybe later you can join us on this flagship, Dr. Akram.
We are glad if you could join us to enhance this project.
Yes.
Further. Okay. Is there any more questions? Okay. If there is no question, so
Dr. Saadah, before that, I just want to give comment. I think this is one of the project that is not just utilizing the KICT expertise, but also expertise from the languages, which means that we get people from KLM, from CELPED, even from IRKHS. Okay, so I think, Alhamdulillah, the response from these people are very good. And people like Prof Akram, because of your, and also Dr. Awad, so we would be very, very, happy if you want to come and join us, at least we have more people to give us feedback and more people to give us different perspectives and view, I think that is very important. Up to you, Dr. Saadah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So great. Thank you for all the speakers. Inshallah, we are looking forward to having you again in the future. Thank you very much to all the doctors, professors, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much to the organizer, Humanizing Digital Education Flagship, and the co-organizer, the Office of Head and Research and Innovation, together with KICT Promotion and Marketing team for organizing this seminar or this webinar. So I guess it's time to end our program. Once again, thank you everyone for your participation in this webinar. We hope to see you again next time, inshallah. So let's end our event, our program with Tasbih Kafarah and Suratul Asr. Okay, before we stop our session, this is a special request for a photo session. I would like to request to all attendees, okay, for this webinar, to switch on your camera and take 1 or 2 photos, right? Okay, maybe everyone can switch on the camera.